Good morning, TP here. How are you guys?
Hey, good. How are you?
TP, you're 10 minutes early, which begs the question, were you always one of the first players to the ballpark?
No. But I was always there at an appropriate time. Yes, absolutely.
Well, you're Canadian. We would expect nothing less. I'm sure you came in right on time and apologized. And
I think that's one of the first things I tell our players at UHV. When I tell you the bus leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning, the bus leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning, not at 8:05 unless you give me a call.
right, unless it's your day to start.
That's right.
Now, if Nolan Ryan's not on the bus, we might wait a minute.
Yeah, just one.
But by the way, folks, we're joined by Terry Puhl. As of now, many of you only know Terry as the head baseball coach at University of Houston, Victoria. But if you're just a little more seasoned like I am, you remember Terry Puhl as a great player for the Houston Astros for a number of years, 14, I think.
And if you're from Canada like me, you remember Terry as I think, at one point, the only Canadian in Major League Baseball. And
Yeah, I had there for a few years there, Ash. When I first broke in, there was about three of us, and then all the other guys kind of fell off, and I was the only player for about 3-4 years.
Canada, a hotbed of talent on the baseball diamond. So, you know why? Because there's not very many Puerto Ricans or Dominicans in Canada. Very difficult to go up there and scout.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one, there's a. I think at one point when I became the coach of Team Canada, Greg was up there who ran Baseball Canada, and he said that at that time we had 125 players in the minor leagues from Canada.
Wow.
It's not bad. It's one per team in minor league baseball.
Yeah, that's Greg Hamilton. Greg Hamilton.
Yeah.
We have the token Canadian.
Yeah. So before we get into an interesting article that came out from Major League Baseball yesterday, but things were shut down. How disappointing was that for the spring season, for you as a coach, for the student athletes that saw their season end?
Well, I think that from the standpoint of the players, they didn't realize that when we first told them about it, that I think they all thought that, hey, we're going to resurrect this season somehow, and that quickly went the other way, and rightfully so. But the disappointment on their faces, I still remember though. We were out at we were actually having a practice over on Ripamonte Field. We were just going to walk over there, and I called everybody, because Victoria Independent School District was having a tournament on the field, so we couldn't practice there. But before even practice started, I think Ash, we had a meeting, and you mentioned that all UHB activities athletically were shut down, and so that was the news that I got to take to them. And when you see a 19, 20-year-old, and it's almost like ripping their heart out, going like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You're taking baseball away.
And next year, when you can tell a kid, hey, you get to play baseball today, let's go. You might see a new level of excitement and fire out of those kids.
Well, I think what we learned, Brent, through all this is that when I can't tell you how many times I've used this line on players over the years, and that is, hey, play this game like it is your last game, because you just never know. Well, we can always go back to this point, and there were some seniors, like for instance, Zoda.
Yeah.
Caleb Zola, who's moving on because he's getting married in June and got a job lined up in Dallas and everything. He is not coming back next year. He did not know that his last game was going to be that Tuesday at Prairie View.
Wow.
And his last at bat, he probably has to go back and think about his last at bat. I remember my last at bat in Seattle. It was a ground ball, a weak ground ball. Got it pitched out, but I just didn't square it up like I should have. But
well, you were 63 years old. I mean, come on. pulled,
So anyways,
pulled a hammy on the way back to the dugout.
Yeah, pulled that enough times.
So Ash has got a list here, and I want him to read some of the names on this list, and just really just want to have an impromptu conversation with you.
Because this was an interesting article that somebody had sent me yesterday, so I got a chance to look at it, and it goes through every team, and I won't go through them all, but predominantly. What I found interesting, and I rough math, but probably 85 to 90% of the hitters on this list, and what Major League Baseball writers did was the prettiest swing on every team in their history, and the majority of them were left-handed hitters, which I thought was interesting. And John Olerud was there for the Blue Jays. We'll start with the Canadian team that's left in the majors. Which probably, when looking at that, no argument from somebody who watched a lot of Blue Jays baseball. Your thoughts on the way that John Olerud swung the bat?
Well, he just made it look effortlessly. I think that's the thing about the swing, except for I think one of the players named in there, Eric Davis with Cincinnati Reds.
Yes.
I'm going to go well, wait a minute. How do you pick Eric Davis? Out of all the big red machine players and everything that they had, but Eric Davis, he had that sequence of swing. But he had a torquing swing, but it was a pretty swing. But it was a very quick and hard swing.
More Altuve.
John Olerud, Washington State Cougar as well. Just throw that.
Maybe even harder than Altuve, a lot harder than Altuve.
Yeah, it was violent.
Yeah. He'd almost drilled himself into the batter's box sometimes. So, he and his 24-inch waist, everybody was going, how does he generate that kind of torque? But getting back to John Olerud, he made it look so effortless. And the only way I can compare it to is, everybody knows about Ernie Els and his golf swing. Everybody goes, how does he generate all that power?
Right.
And he hardly looks like he's swinging. And I think that's a good comparison. George Brett was on there.
Yeah, George Brett was on there.
You're talking about an effective hitter, too. I played with George, and I saw him take 2 line drives off right by the head of Randy Johnson in Seattle. And the next day he got up on a Sunday morning and in the clubhouse had breakfast ready for every player before the next ball game. What a great memory that is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Him cooking bacon for us.
Tell you what, he was a fiery competitor. We used to make those lists of the players we'd like to have, and it always, for me at third base, it always came down to, do you want the consistent swing of George Brett at third, or do you want the just monumental power of
like Mike Schmidt?
Mike Schmidt at third. That's what it always came down to for me. Then my dad would say Brooks Robinson.
Ted Williams on the list, no surprise there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've often seen clips of his swing. I never could understand how he had that kind of flexibility to get to the finish of his swing. I mean, I could try. I go into a severe body cramp.
Right.
Getting to that position.
He never
was over the plate. Yeah, unbelievable swing.
He never released the bat with his left hand. He swung all the way around, and
exactly
right past crossover, and he was all the way back around himself, hitting himself on the back with the bat, and still had both hands on the bat.
But you know what always amazed me with him? The size of his forearms and his wrists. I mean, you look at pictures of him. I mean, he makes Popeye look like olive oil.
You know,
these guys are big everywhere.
Yeah.
It was a different game because you remember that Williams got booed once, I think, at home, and literally said, "That's it. I'll never tip my cap to the fans again." And like his last at bat at home was a home run, and people were like, "Surely now on his way out, his last game," and Williams was like, "Nuts! I ain't tipping my hat to him."
He was a very opinionated man. I met him once at spring training. We went over to play the Red Sox, and he was holding court, and so yeah, a lot of us went over. Obviously, when you get a chance to talk to Ted Williams or listen to a Ted Williams, you're going to do it. And a very opinionated man.
Mike Trout on the list, probably the most current player on this list. No surprise.
Who was the Yankee? DiMaggio?
Don Mattingly was the Yankee.
Well, I would take DiMaggio or Mantle over Mattingly, but Mattingly had kind of like the natural swing.
But it's not, we're not talking, that power and stuff. It's the nicest swing to watch somebody swing. So when you get to the Astros, baseball writers named Terry Puhl as the prettiest swing in Astros history.
That's awesome.
How did it make you feel when you saw this, Terry?
Well, I did. My son Steven sent it to me yesterday, and I went, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, just to see those names on that list, I was just in shock. I have to admit, I was a little bit in shock. Getting back to Mattingly for a second, I still remember we played the Yankees in an exhibition just before spring training was done in the start of the season. Yankees and us flew over to Puerto Rico, and we played a game. And everybody was talking in the clubhouse, hey, you got to watch this guy out in left field for them, Mattingly. He started, I believe, in left field. And so I still remember that they said he's got a beautiful swing. And, isn't that amazing that it had already been developed at that time, even before he even started his career.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me ask you, growing up in Canada, it wasn't exactly a baseball hotbed in Melville, Saskatchewan. So, I mean, who did you look to emulate a swing? Was it Rocket Richard? Was it Mo Norman?
Did you just have a Mickey and sleep in a bunker?
Well, you have to remember, Brent, I was in Saskatchewan, so the only baseball game that we got on TV, was always the Minnesota Twins. I don't think we ever got a Yankee game up there. It was always the Minnesota Twins. And I'll give you one guess, and that's why I'll say this, that when it comes to the California Angels, Rod Carew would have been my guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's
But to me, he had the greatest swing ever.
He was so bent over and just slapping over him.
You talk about fluid.
And
the ball jumped off his bat.
In your era, then, after watching Carew, I saw a lot of that in Tony Gwynn. Even though Gwynn was probably had more power, but that ability to stay down, take a pitch away, Gwynn was so good. They called him Mr. 5.5 because he'd hit it between third and short just over and over and over.
Well, Tony was probably one of the real first students of the game. I mean, this guy worked hard on video. He was, definitely 10 years ahead of most other players. And he understood the swing, too. That was another thing. Very articulate person. Tony, and he's another guy that I give examples to my players. I remember Tony Gwynn, he'd get 5 at-bats, he'd hit 4 of them right on the nose, and maybe come away with 2 hits.
Right.
I mean, that's what you got to do at the major league level. You can't go up there and pop up this ball and do this and consistently hit 330. You have to drive the ball 4 out of 5 times. Right on the screws.
I watched a video once of Tony Gwynn visiting for about an hour with Ted Williams about the art of hitting. And and Tony Gwynn was, like you were talking about, when you have the chance to go visit or listen to Ted Williams, he was like a kid in the candy store, man. He was just sitting there just like, well, tell me about this. And, he asked Gwynn, he said, what's your favorite pitch, son? And Tony said, well, I mean, pro, give me that fastball down the middle. I'll hit it somewhere. He said, nope. He goes, as you develop, you're going to start to make your living on that inside pitch. He said, let him mess up and throw one inside, and you're going to turn on it. I was like, wow. Gwen didn't know what to tell him. He was like, okay, that's awesome.
I think one thing that you would find that all 30 of those players had that was consistent and was God-given was wonderful eyesight. Like my vision was 2015.
Wow.
And, I think, Ted Williams always was 2010.
Wow.
And so, I think every great hitter, mine was the prettiest hitter, okay, but the prettiest swing. The great hitters in the game, their eyesight, they see the ball, the spin on the baseball, and their eyes are working so much more productively than most hitters.
Wow.
So we'll switch gears here. Appreciate the insight on that, and
congratulations
that's quite
on
an
being
honor.
on the list.
I mean, you think about it, 60 years of Astros baseball, and you're named the prettiest swing. That's
I know it's a real honor. I really do. But what's funny, Ash? Yesterday there was another article that came out sent to me from ESPN, and it came out and it talked about the advent of the game and how we may be going to 4 outfielders because everybody's trying to put the ball up in the air, and we may go to a 4th outfielder. And what they said in the article was, like in the dome, where the ball never carried, and if you put the ball up in the air, either Cruz, Cedeno, or Puhl would run it down, catch it. I thought, it's the same day.
That's pretty nice. But that's great that people remember, and baseball is a game where people remember. They remember where they were when certain things happened around baseball.
Wow. It's we miss baseball drastically in this time, and I know they're going to bring it back wisely, but it's going to get back here. We're going to have a season, a major league season that's going to be, maybe a first of its kind, because of the drawn out, how they're going to work the playoffs, where they're going to start, how they're going to play in front of fans, even the players' commitment at the early level, I think, is going to be questioned. There's a lot of stuff this year in baseball that's going to happen here as we pull out of this coronavirus.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, and the way that the president's 3-phase plan, I mean, you're not talking till phase 2 before sports can begin with nobody in the stands, and then you're looking at phase 3 or beyond before you can even add fans. It's going to be an interesting process to see how and when we can start. How has this changed up? I mean, your off season obviously started earlier, so how did this change things up? Because you can't go watch anybody as a coach and evaluate talent. How have you had to adjust to getting things done in your off season now?
I've been watching a lot of video to start with and talking to players around the country.
Okay.
They're searching for places because a lot of them, their careers are up in the air. Coaches have told their players that there's not a spot for you on their roster. They've already been told. So it's almost impossible for to go through everybody that I've seen. And what I've done with the Victoria players, I've told every one of them, everybody that was on the team last year that wants to return, you have a spot on our team.
That's
obviously
awesome.
You're going to have to earn the right to play.
Yeah.
Every year you have to do that. That's the beauty of baseball. It's like nobody gives you, the ability to play through 3 decades just because, you have a pretty swing.
Right.
You have to be productive. And I keep on getting back to that with our players, that the most productive players that give me the most quality at bats time in and time out are the guys I'm going to play with. If you can catch and throw.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I forgot about that part of the game.
There are 5 tools. We need all 5 tools.
It's amazing at our level sometimes that catch and throw is just what gets you.
Rock and fire, baby. Rock and fire.
Well, we appreciate it.
They only got 1 DH slot.
That's it. We're only putting 7 men in the field, and we're going to have 2 DHs.
So getting back real quick
I know.
to the article that said, we're looking at maybe they put a fourth outfielder out there. Which position moves away? Is it the shortstop? Is it second base?
It's Democrats. We're going to have 10 players now.
Oh, okay.
Everybody bats. Everybody bats.
Which player did they suggest would be the one that would move out into the outfield?
Well, so the second baseman would move out, and then you would shift. You would be giving a left-handed hitter, say with power, that likes to put the ball up in the air. Give him, if he wants to bunt the ball down third baseline, you just give it to him. You move your third baseman over, your shortstop moves over to second base, and then you've got towards up the middle, and then your second baseman is playing, midfield, mid outfield, and then you have the 3 outfielders.
Okay.
Position.
Kind of like the old rover position.
Yeah, that's good. That's exactly what I was thinking. I play rover. I'm a rover.
So Biggio was just ahead of his time.
He was
when
a
he
rover.
transitioned from second to outfield. So
unbelievable.
All right. Well, Terry, appreciate the call. Thanks for taking time and joining us this morning. It's quite the honor to be named, and appreciate the look back on your career and your insight on some of the names on that list. It's just
I love the visits.
fascinating
I love to
talking
visit with you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Great to talk to you guys.
Yes,
you
sir.
too. Have a good one.
Take care.
All right. Bye, Terry.